Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Imagine a world where Europe knew almost nothing about China, where the East was a land of myth and legend. Then one boy from Venice changed everything. This is the story of Marco Polo, the man who opened the East to the West. Marco Polo was born in 1254 in Venice, a buzzing hub of global trade. His father and uncle were international merchants, trading in gold, silk, spices, and gems. They were adventurers who had already traveled to Constantinople, Persia, and even the court of the great Mongol emperor Kublai Khan before Marco was even born. So Marco grew up not with fairy tales, but with true stories of faraway lands. His house was filled with foreign languages, exotic maps, and the scent of spices from the other side of the world. He was born into a life of global trade before the globe was even fully mapped. In 1271, when Marco was just 17 years old, his life changed forever. His father and uncle decided to return to Kublai Khan's court, and this time they took Marco with them. This wasn't just a business trip. Their mission was to bring back Christian priests and Western knowledge to the most powerful ruler in Asia. Their journey was an epic in itself, a grueling four-year trek that would test the limits of human endurance. They traveled from Venice through the deserts of the Middle East and Persia, over the treacherous Pamir mountains, and across the vast, unforgiving Gobi desert, finally arriving in China. For a teenage boy from Italy, it was a journey into another dimension. When a 21-year-old Marco Polo finally stood before Kublai Khan in 1275, the emperor was instantly captivated. He saw something special in the young Venetian. Marco was incredibly curious, sharp-eyed, intelligent, and a quick study with languages. Kublai Khan didn't just welcome him, he put him to work. He made Marco a trusted court official, a diplomatic envoy to distant parts of his empire, and an inspector of cities. Think about that for a moment, a young European man becoming a close confidant to the most powerful Asian emperor on earth. It was an unprecedented relationship, a true meeting of East and West. No European had ever been granted such a high level of trust and access in an Asian court. For the next 17 years, China was Marco Polo's home. Under the protection of Kublai Khan, he wasn't just a guest. He was an explorer. He traveled to lands few Westerners had ever dreamed of, from the mountains of Tibet and the jungles of Burma to the plains of Mongolia. He even took to the seas, journeying to India. What he saw was a civilization light years ahead of Europe in many ways. He saw a society that used paper money, a concept completely alien to Europeans who relied on gold and silver coins. He saw people burning black stone's coal for heat. He witnessed massive, sprawling cities that dwarfed London or Paris. He saw a highly organized government running a sophisticated postal system and a network of canals for trade and transport. Perhaps most surprising was the level of religious tolerance within the Mongol Empire. Europe at the time was consumed by religious conflict, but here was a world where different faiths coexisted under one rule. What Marco was seeing wasn't just a different country, it was a different future. Kublai Khan didn't just like Marco. He found him incredibly useful. He used Marco as his eyes and ears across his vast empire. Because Marco was a foreigner, he was an impartial observer. Local officials, who might be tempted to hide problems or lie to a Mongol inspector, were more likely to be honest with this strange man from Venice. Kublai sent him as a messenger to remote provinces, as a reporter to investigate potential corruption, and as a diplomat to negotiate on his behalf. Marco Polo became an essential tool of imperial administration, a trusted outsider who could give the emperor the unvarnished truth about his own kingdom after 17 years of service. You might wonder why the Polos were ever allowed to leave. They had become rich and were an integral part of the court, but they were getting older and wished to see Venice again. Their chance came in 1291. Kublai Khan needed to send a Mongol princess, Kikin, to Persia to be married. The land route was dangerous, so a sea voyage was planned. The Polos, with their extensive travel experience, were the perfect candidates to escort her safely. Kublai reluctantly agreed to let them go. After completing their mission in Persia, they didn't return to China. Instead, they continued their journey westward, finally arriving back in Venice in 1295. They had been gone for 24 years. They returned as strangers in their own city, but they were wealthy beyond anyone's wildest imagination, draped in silk and jewels. The story could have ended there, a family legend whispered in Venice, but fate had other plans. A few years later, in 1298, Venice went to war with its rival Genoa. Marco Polo was captured and thrown into a Genoese prison. It was there, in that dark cell, that he met a writer named Richest of Pisa. To pass the time, Marco began to tell his life story, recounting every detail of his incredible journey. Rustichello, a professional storyteller, wrote it all down. This prison collaboration gave birth to one of the most important books in history, The Travels of Marco Polo. Suddenly, his personal adventure became Europe's window into the vast, unknown world of Asia. The book was copied by hand and spread like wildfire across the continent, but as the book spread, so did disbelief. The stories Marco told were simply too fantastic for most Europeans to accept. He described cities with millions of inhabitants when Europe's largest cities had populations in the tens of thousands. He talked about a government that used paper as money, which sounded like a ridiculous fairy tale. He wrote of burning stones for fuel and of giant Chinese ships with multiple decks and watertight compartments. He described an efficient postal system where messengers on horseback could cover 250 miles in a single day. To the medieval European mind, this was all pure fantasy. He was nicknamed Il Milione, the man of a million lies. For centuries, many dismissed his work, but history and archaeology would eventually prove him right. We found evidence of the great cities, the advanced naval technology, and the complex society he described. He wasn't lying. He was just reporting from the future. The impact of Marco Polo's book on world history is impossible to overstate. It fundamentally changed how Europeans saw the world. His detailed descriptions of the wealth of the East, the spices, the silks, the jewels ignited a burning desire for trade and exploration. One young Italian navigator who owned a heavily annotated copy of Marco's book was named Christopher Columbus. He was directly inspired by Marco's accounts to find a new sea route to the Indies. Marco Polo's stories helped redraw the map of the world, sparking the age of discovery. Without his journey and his book, the global world we know today might have taken centuries longer to emerge. At the heart of this incredible story is the unique relationship between two men from opposite ends of the earth, Marco Polo and Kublai Khan. The Mongol emperor, one of the most powerful men in history, placed his deep trust in a young foreign merchant. He protected the Polo family and integrated Marco into the highest levels of his administration. In return, Marco admired Kublai immensely. He praised his sense of justice, his leadership, and his vision, describing him as the greatest ruler the world had ever known. Their partnership was a symbol of what could be possible, East and West, not in conflict but working together, learning from each other. Marco Polo died a wealthy man in Venice in 1324. As he lay on his deathbed, a priest and friends gathered around him, urging him to confess his exaggerations, to admit that he had made up his incredible stories. They wanted to save his soul from the sin of lying. With his last breaths, Marco Polo looked at them and famously replied, "I did not tell half of what I saw." In the end, Marco Polo was far more than just a traveler or a merchant. He was a bridge between civilizations. He took a world that was fragmented and mysterious and made it bigger, more connected, and infinitely more fascinating. He proved that beyond the horizon wasn't monsters and myths, but magnificent cultures and incredible opportunities. He expanded not just the map, but the human imagination itself. If you enjoyed this journey into history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that shaped our world. Leave your comments below and thanks for watching.